In a war-torn land, where greed and power are absolute, there exists an entity of divine status, a source of all living matter that acts on principles we cannot understand. This organism brings strength to a young slave tortured by her owner, a king with a savage rule. Yet the girl did not ask for such a gift, or curse if you ask some. The ability of the Titans, gigantic creatures with supernatural powers, attributes that live in the nightmares of people. A power that could bring whole countries to their knees was of no interest to the slave. All she wanted was the love of her king. A brutal story spanning centuries, one that raises questions on hatred, humanity, and sacrifice. All began from a one-sided love. I brought you a series making sense of some of the most confusing anime. Now I'll narrate the tale of empires who could not learn to cast aside their hate and paid for it in blood. This is the story of Attack on Titan. Ymir was the name of the young slave that longed for the king of Eldia to love her. She had no hope of receiving his affection, but that was before she gained the power of the Titans. With the ability to transform into an all-powerful giant, she won over King Fritz's curiosity. Tasked with waging war against their enemies like the neighboring tribe Marley, Ymir won a seat as a concubine for her ruler. With him she had 3 daughters, Maria, Rose, and Sina. For 13 years, Ymir would abuse the power of the Titans, all for her love's desire to expand his domain. Thousands were slaughtered, until a lone spear would bring the end to the monster's campaign. In her human form, Ymir would jump in front of a spear meant for King Fritz, thrown by a Marleyan prisoner of war. She died, and no grieving was held by her husband. Instead, in a desperate attempt to hold on to the Titan powers of his wife, he had her 3 daughters cannibalize their mother. After consuming Ymir, the girls still held no special traits. Still not giving up on the pursuit for power, Fritz had the girls continuously reproduce. Then, when they finally died from exhaustion of childbirth, he had their children consume their bodies and hands. These atrocities led to a curse being set upon the Eldians. While the powers of Ymir were salvaged, her abilities were severed into 9 distinct Titans, each with unique abilities. 8 of these would be passed down metaphysically to descendants of Ymir randomly. Given the forced reproduction Fritz instilled on her daughters, nearly everyone in the Eldian tribe were related to them in some way. One, however, the one known as the Founder, or Coordinate Titan, would stay within the royal family of Fritz. While reattaining this power was a favorable outcome for the Eldian tribe, there were drawbacks to Titan kind. Those that inherited one of the 9 would only be given 13 years of life from the day they gained their power, a symbol of the short life of their ancestor Ymir. Additionally, while the inheritance was rather random if left to its own devices, there was a way to directly pass on the abilities of the 9, by repeating the horrors of cannibalization like Ymir's daughters. Consuming the spinal fluid of one of the 9 before their date of death would directly pass on the 9 to that person. This led to warrior breeding. The strongest, smartest, and most loyal would be chosen by their king to inherit these powers and wage war on his behalf. Through the sins of the father and the sorrow of a mother, a race of people were created that contained a monster within. The ancestors of Ymir ushered in an era of ruin. The Eldian people established an empire spanning as far as the eye can see, one that was created through the spillage of blood and the cries for mercy from the dead. In an era not too dissimilar to the Middle Ages, their enemies' weaponry stood no chance against the Titans of 9. Alongside the 9, pure Titans were dispatched to deal with enemies they lay siege to. Injecting the ancestors of Ymir with Titan spinal fluid would transform them into Titans, lacking any special abilities, simultaneously losing their ability to think cognitively. There was only one purpose they had: to consume spinal fluid of humans, in the hope they'd consume one of the 9 and revert to a human form. It was truly a detestable existence, but it's hard to say which suffers more. The humans they tear apart were the one behind the Titan eyes, instinctually forced to consume flesh by the Titan curse. As time went on, entire cultures were wiped off the face of the earth by the Eldian Empire. Seeds of discord slowly entrenched themselves over who should control the power of the Titans, and how they should use them. By the year 743, nearly 2,000 years since the days of Ymir, inner tensions reached an all-time high. Civil war was on the horizon. Their enemies grew more powerful from their deep-seated rage and hate for the Eldian people, their borders threatened by a Marley invasion. If this internal division was not curbed, their empire would surely crumble. Karl Fritz, the 145th monarch of the Eldian Empire, an inheritor of the founding titan, had no interest in saving his kingdom. Ashamed of their history of genocide and war, along with another sympathizing noble family, the Tibers, they constructed an exit plan for Fritz that would crumble the empire. A nearing uninhabited island under their domain, Paradis, was chosen as the place Fritz would be banished to. He took the majority of the Fritz royal family to this territory, with their monarch disappearing. The Empire's civil war broke out, Eldians killing Eldians. The Great Titan War reached its beginning. The Tibers used it in fighting as an opportunity to fuel the hatred of the Marleyans, siding with these people once their enemy, and with the power of the Warhammer Titan, one of the 9, Marley and the Tibers slowly chipped away at the Eldian legions. Over the course of the war, the Marleyans bring the control of 6 more of the 9 to their side: the Colossal, the Armored, the Female, the Beast, the Cart, and the Jaw. The war should have stopped there, but the Marleys' hatred longed for harsher repercussions for the Eldians' iron-fisted rule. The conflict became one-sided, Eldians being exterminated from the land, Marley simply taking Eldia's place as the oppressors. Sensing the threat of extinction, King Fritz knew he must step in. And so, desiring a century of peace before their inevitable destruction, Fritz enacted a bluff, constructing large walls of concrete, within each a massive 60-meter-tall titan that would listen to the commands of the founder if ever needed, to exterminate all that covers the earth if peace on Paradis is ever tarnished. While these titans did in fact exist, what made this a bluff was the king's forced vow unto the power of the founding titan that would cause any member of royal blood who inherited the founder to renounce war. He shared this knowledge with the Tiber family and Marley, that there would be no retaliation, and they eventually came to Paradis to kill them. King Fritz damned his people to a delayed genocide to pay for the crimes of their ancestors. A terrible king who lacks the understanding that a race of people are not inherently evil by design, but bred that way through leadership. He forsake the Eldians, contributing to the Marley propaganda campaign that labeled them as nothing more than the spawn of the devil. The Eldians that survived the Great Titan War in what was now known as the Marley Empire were put into internment camps, marked with distinctive armbands to solidify their place in society. Black, yellow marked the basic civilian, light blue for those who were forced to become soldiers for the new empire, yellow for warrior candidates, a group selectively bred to inherit the 6 powers under Marley control, the Warhammer staying within the Tiber family. Red bands were given to standing warriors and their families, this group given the best treatment of any Eldian in Marley. To control this population, generations upon generations were fed lies disguised as truth. Eldians were told their people were savages that wiped cultures off the planet, a half-truth, ignoring that not many civilizations were any better at this time. Marley proving with each choice they make that even now, they are just the same. They fabricated a legend of a Marley man named Helos, slaying what they come to call the devil of all earth, a myth Tiber and Fritz created as a stand-in for the source of all living matter, to paint the Eldians as more demonic. Ymir was not given the power accidentally from a celestial god. Now she is a girl who made a deal with the devil out of lust for power. Marley is painted like a victor over evil, and the remaining Eldians should be grateful they have been allowed to live. They suffer greater oppression than the Marley race ever experienced while Eldia stood as an empire. As the new era settled in, an age-old ally of the Eldians, the Hizuru, are scrutinized on a global scale as devil sympathizers. Some clans flee to the island of Paradis alongside Fritz, the Ackerman and Oriental clans, some of note, but their people would experience persecution from the royals. Fritz had used his power as the founder to wipe the memory of all Eldians on Paradis of their history, replacing it with the simple idea that they are the last of mankind, the walls around them, their shields from an opposing entity. Their enemy was no human, but titans, pure ones lacking any intelligence, hoping one of the humans they eat will give them back what they have lost. But those of other descents, like the Ackerman clan, could not be touched by the paths that connected the subjects of Ymir. Therefore they held on to the truth, and in fear of their knowledge, were treated illy. As the truth is lost, the subjects of Ymir have fallen into ignorance. All it took was a weak king with a noble cause to damn them to lives of hiding and internment. Of the few who knew the truth of the Eldians, they were sworn to secrecy and given nobility as gratitude. A false monarch was put into place within the walls of Paradis to protect the true king and, more importantly, the passing of the founding titan. The Fritz family changed their name to Reyes, and they lived largely underground, where every 13 years they'd pass along the founder. As civilization grew here, a social hierarchy was eventually determined. Within the most inner wall, Sina, the higher class and nobles resided, while Rose held mostly merchants and other middle-class families. Moving down a tier would be Wall Maria. There did, however, exist an even more dangerous zone than the outer walls. 4 outer towns existed, branching from the main wall. One a prominent note, the town of Shinganshina. Outside the 50-meter walls of this fortress was open land far as the eye could see, but it wasn't exactly safe for exploring. Pure Titans roamed, Titans created by Marley as a form of execution and punishment to disobeying devils. Over the waters in the Marley Empire, the transition to a new rule was not smooth. Rebellious groups were not too uncommon, and the way to deal with them was by injecting them with Titan spinal fluid and banishing them to mull about in their twisted forms. One group to receive this treatment was a cult-like group worshipping their ancestor, Ymir. A person of note is born 63 years after the end of the Titan War. Grisha Jaeger, an Eldian born in Liberio, one of Marley's biggest port cities. Growing up, the boy saw the severe oppression of his people, and after the death of his sister at the hand of a Marleyan officer who fed the little girl to his dogs, Grisha finding her corpse mangled and nearly unrecognizable, deep-seated hatred began to be sown in his heart. This would lead Grisha down a path of rebellion, later discovering the truth of their people from his father, the true history of Eldia, and how they were being unfairly persecuted for the actions of their ancestors. He joins the Restorationists, a radical group created from the desire for fair treatment that sought to crumble the Marley Empire and free their people. As they had lost the memory of their history, they relied on a Marley informant, the Owl, and the documents they'd send them. The language they were in was ancient Eldian, therefore illegible, but from the pictures they could make out Ymir used her Titan powers to create bridges, cultivate lands, and bring wealth to her people. Like a tale old as time, the victors only write about their good deeds. It seems the Eldian scribes omitted the genocides and violence from their text. The Restorationists planned to obtain the founding Titan from Paradis, and using its ability, they would topple the Empire. Their plan, while it is idealistic, it isn't impossible. It's just too bad their failure would be sealed with the birth of Grisha's son, Zeke Jaeger. Time after time, as the founder is passed on, each Reyes member loses their will to fight. The Reyes family are the only ones who truly know the nature of their people, along with the oppression those still within Marley suffer. Each chosen for the inheritance speak of their desire to use the power once obtained to help their people, but each, when coming out from the ritual, hold glossy eyes. A metaphor for the internal prison, the vow of renouncing war, their pitiful ancestor Fritz forced upon them. Udi Reyes has been chosen as the next founder, living under the radar until one day a renowned serial killer, Kenny Ackerman, takes a job to kill him. Kenny quickly loses the battle, but despite Udi's brother Rod pleading for him to kill the man, Udi instead prostrates to Kenny, begging him to forgive their family for the persecution of the Ackermans and other Hizudus had to suffer through. Since the days of King Fritz, the idealistic belief he had that he created a land of peace turns out to be foolish. Paradise, like any other land, suffers classism, prejudice, among all other types of hatred and fear you can think of. People are still people, and the false monarchy profits while paying little mind to the lower class citizens. Hell, they even create an underground city that runs rampant with crime, prostitution, and violence. In a symbolic way, the government keeps the true problems out of sight, out of mind, just as the island's first king had done, thinking he could run away to a remote island and solve the issues within Eldia. After making this apology, Kenny becomes a close confidant of the true royal family, helping them keep the truth of Eldia in secrecy by killing anyone close to discovering the truth. He also takes this time to oversee his nephew Levi, until he's capable of taking care of himself in the underground city. A dangerous place without much law, yet one where someone with the innate fighting abilities of an Ackerman will be just fine in. Marley has begun their search yet again for new warrior candidates, as the 13 years of life the 9 are given come to a close. The boy Zeke Jaeger, of age for the candidacy, is pushed to enlist by his father under the request of the Owl. While Zeke and his father have a rather iffy relationship, he still cares for his dad and listens to his commands. But while training, Zeke found a father figure in the current Beast Titan, Tom Xavier. Tom had a dark past, became a warrior as a form of self-suicide after his wife, who was a Marleyan, killed herself and their son after finding out Tom was an Eldian. He believed the Eldian Restorationists were too war-hungry, a cost of the years of oppression at the hand of Marley, and thought it best for their race to avoid further destruction by using the Founder's powers to sterilize the Eldians naturally letting their bloodline die out in roughly 100 years. This idea was something Zeke would come to latch onto, seeing it as a more morally correct option than what his parents had been pushing upon him. And as the secret police closed in on the restorationists, Tom would push Zeke to sell out his parents to protect himself from execution. Feeling a more parental attachment to Tom, Zeke would do just that. He sold out his own parents, and that was a burden he would carry for the rest of his life. After days of torture, their suffering does not come to a conclusive end. The devils will be banished to roam the lands of Paradise as husks of people. Grisha is left for last, having to watch as his wife is transformed in front of him, looking down from the wall at her new, deformed vessel. Before he too meets the same fate, the owl appears before him, wiping out the Marley soldiers with the power of the one titan we have yet to name, the Attack Titan. Born from Ymir's desire for a future that will end the eternal suffering of her life trapped in the path as she continues to serve the founder in spirit. The Attack Titan sees the past and future of its holders. It's a curse, as the wielders are propelled towards a future not of their own design, a future of liberation for Eldia, but through means that may not be worth the ends. Regardless, the man before us, Aaron Kruger, tells Grisha it is of the will of one of the inheritors that he stands here today, to give Grisha the power of the Titan to move towards the promised future. A man named Aaron Yeager has designated this chain of events the only way to free their people. He injects Grisha, has him drink his spinal fluid, and take the power of the Attack Titan to the lands of Paradise, with the mission to obtain the founder from the royals.
Oi, Anta!
Coming across a member of the scout regiment of the Paradise military, Grisha is taken into Shinganshina, where he eventually meets his second wife, Carla, and has another son who he names Aaron Yeager. They later adopt a girl named Mikasa Ackerman, after Aaron saves her from a group of human traffickers who had already killed her mother and father by the time he got there. Mikasa becomes deeply loyal to Aaron, devoting her whole life to protecting the boy as gratitude for saving hers, and giving her the push to fight for her life. For a while, life is bliss for the family. Aaron and Armin dream of seeing the ocean outside the walls, idolizing the lives of the scout regiment who go on expeditions. And Grisha tells Aaron on his 10th birthday he'll share with his son the research he's been doing. It's clear that, given Aaron's age, factored with the time since Grisha came to Paradise, it's almost time he passes on his ability, though that is not the horror that takes place in the year 845. The Marleyans have decided it's time to exterminate the Eldian devils, launching an operations overseas to obtain the founding titan's powers and eliminate the threat of King Fritz's original bluff. Of the millions of lives that will be lost, the Marleyans so much as attack their island, an event known as the Rumbling. While the Tibber family knows of the vow renouncing war, the founding titan is a prisoner too. They seem to not have shared this with the Marleyans, seemingly keeping their word to the King of Paradise to help him attain a century of peace. They simply sit back and watch as the Marleyans make use of the brainwashed minds of the Eldian warriors, tasking 4 children with the retrieval mission. New warriors Reiner Braun, the armored titan, Marcel Galliard of the Jaw, Annie Leonhardt, the female titan, and Berthold Hoover of the Colossal are sent, though the Jaw is quickly lost upon arrival, Marcel being consumed by a pure titan that just so happens to be the girl Ymir, the one worshipped by the cult that was transformed by the Marleyans several decades ago. Having been the natural leader of the group, the other 3 are left in disarray without Marcel. Reiner, who was deemed the least capable, and only chosen because Marcel put in a good word to save his brother from being chosen as a warrior, takes the reins of leadership, hastily putting together a foolish plan to create terror in one of the border cities, and use this chaos to slip into Paradise society under the alias of refugees from the outer wall. This also doubles as an opportunity to take note of what the Founder's response is to an attack. It's not a bad plan in terms of success rate, but it ignores the amount of lives lost and the hatred it will sow in a boy who will swear on his every breath to exterminate his enemies beyond the walls. The attack on Shinganshina commences. Thousands died because of the actions of the warriors. These aren't the deaths of devils who were ancestors to an age-old empire, but people living lives raising children, common-day folk that had done nothing wrong. That's the reality of the ones they so maliciously called devils. The wall guarding Shinganshina was not the only to fall. The major wall, Maria, was breached in turn, and the entire outer circle of the land is forced to retreat inward. Now there is nowhere near enough room. Grisha had traveled inward, on a quest to prevent all of this from happening after seeing a vision of Shinganshina falling and Wall Maria being breached. He should know better, though, that what he sees through the attack titan's power is inevitable future memories of the next in line. He had finally tracked down the royal Reyes family and begged for them to use the power of the founder to save the people of the walls, but the current holder, Frida, is chained by the vow-renouncing war. Grisha knows what he must do. He's seen the future and what lies in wait, seen what he'll do to the royal family before him. He fights against fate, though, refusing to move forward, but that'd be ignoring the duty of the attack titan, to keep pressing forward through the sins and torment, through the pain and suffering, all for a future where Eldians can be truly free. The words of the next in line push him to commit murder in the man caves. The interior of Wall Maria was a large agricultural land, and with it now infested with pure titans, food is scarce and the population has become unsustainable. The royal government creates a culling to reduce its size. 250,000 citizens are sent outside the walls as peasant soldiers. Less than 200 of them return alive. The population reduced by 20%. Armin's grandfather was lost to the culling, and as for Aaron's father, after returning for a short time, he too had disappeared, Aaron being the last to talk to him, though he has only a fuzzy memory of the events. The three of these kids are left alone, surviving in the refugee camps until their 15th birthdays, the necessary age to join the military. As Aaron and Armin had always talked about, they still desired to join the scouts and see the ocean. With nothing here for them but misery, going out to potentially die for a dream didn't sound all that bad. Mikasa, Armin, and Aaron enlisted in the 104th Cadet Corps, under the command of Keith Sades, the man that had discovered Aaron's father outside the walls all those years ago. As he trains these cadets, Keith attempts to sabotage Aaron's training, hoping to dissuade him from the military, believing it's the only thing he can do for Carla now that she's dead. But he soon realizes Aaron can't be stopped and moves to a role assisting his climb up the cadet ranks. Training alongside the trio, a few notable names are Reiner, Berthold, Annie, Jean, Connie, Sasha, Krishna, and Ymir. While Rainer and Berthold become rather friendly with Aaron, the boy also makes enemies with Jean due to their personalities not exactly meshing. Jean simply wants an easy life within the divisions of the military police, a branch of the military that serves under the royal government, and for the most part don't do jack shit. Aaron, on the other hand, feels it's their duty to bring a better future to their people, thus his infatuation with the Scout Regiment and their mission to bring freedom from the walls. The Scouts and the military police couldn't be more different of paths to walk. As their time training comes to a close and their rankings finalized, the 104th Cadet Corps disbands to join one of the three divisions of the military. While the garrison, which operates and protects the walls, and the Scouts are free to join, the military police only accepts members who place top 10 in their cadet corps. Aaron makes a precedent that he won't be joining these ranks, believing that the police are wasting their abilities and should be giving their hearts and lives to propelling humanity forward, not rotting away in the inner walls. This speech wins the hearts of other cadets, most considering the option of joining the Scouts, even Jean now on the fence in his decision. This conversation of what they'll end up joining bleeds over into the next day, as they complete their final task as cadets of manning the walls as the Scouts depart for one of their expeditions. The cadets around Aaron are rather motivated to put their lives on the line for the sake of humanity and hope to join the Scouts on their next venture, and it would seem their desire for adventure would be answered much sooner than they expected. It had been 5 years since the last attack from the Titans, and it seemed 5 years was enough for the survivors of Shinganshina to forget how quickly you can die, how little a human life can mean. Not every life ends with a legend to be told, a tale of heroism and triumph. Most die a name to be forgotten. Armin watched as his best friend became nothing more than Titan food, his rank as the 5th best cadet, meaningless in the face of death. The boy didn't even slaughter one Titan before losing his life. While Aaron's death may be sad, there are more dire events transpiring. The district of Trost has been breached, and it's obvious this attack's goal is to demolish Wall Rose, just like Maria. Overlooking the carnage, Reiner, Annie, and Berthold talk of their situation. somewhat confused how exactly this will get them closer to the Founder. These three pay no mind to their surroundings as they speak of both their transformation powers as warriors or their role in both invasions of the Wall. Behind them, fellow cadet Marco overhears everything. It all happens with no time for reason. Berthold feels it necessary to kill him. Reiner loses his sense of reason, ordering Annie to strip him of his odium gear while he ties his hands together, practically sealing his fate as the Titan's next meal. In fear, Annie follows along, scared they'll be killed if they don't kill Marco. The three of them watch as Marco pleads with them to just talk it out with him. His final words before a Titan picks him up and cracks him with a knife. Reiner's face falls to concern, asking the others why Marco is being eaten. Annie and Berthold look to each other. The one between them is developing an intense personality split, incapable of processing what he's doing in consideration of his life in Paradis. Part of him is the cadet who trains to fight for the sake of humanity, and these people his friends. But another part of him is the Marley warrior, desperate to seize the Founder and return home to his family. After watching Marco die, Annie stops working with Reiner and Berthold, choosing the fastest route possible to obtain the Founder and return to her father. She's not interested in playing the slow game like the other two, and seeing how it's already crumbled Reiner's mind, she's extremely cautious of getting attached to the people here. Though they decide not to make any more rash decisions for now, the warriors are gifted their first leads since arriving, as a new Titan, one with unique power like them, makes an appearance on the streets of Trost, slaughtering any pure Titan that crosses its path. Eren Yeager, the inheritor of the attack and founding Titan, has awakened to his power. When the power of the attack Titan first awakens, Eren lacks any mental control over it. The 15-meter beast follows the boy's innate desire to exterminate Titans, slaughtering any in its path. The Titan saves the life of Mikasa, who in a rage after being told of Eren's supposed death, lashed out and killed a number of Titans, only to run out of gas for her ODM gear, stranding herself within the streets. Looking at the Titan, there's a small belief it could be Eren, but she ignores this for now. Connie and Armin come up with a plan to use this Titan to their advantage to free the cadets being overrun by Titans and the supply depot. Liberating the cache, the cadets flee to the top of the walls and reassess their situation. But as they begin to leave, a few catch glimpses of Eren emerging out of the abnormal Titan's body. Mikasa rushes to his side, bringing him to Garrison Captain Kitts for medical attention. The fear in his eyes makes his intentions clear. Eren's power is not understood, and what people don't understand either sparks curiosity or fear. In this case, the latter is true for Captain Kitts. They fire a cannon at the children only for Eren to instinctively use his power to block the round. Greater terror sets into the soldiers. There may be no escaping this mob mentality before him. But to his side, leader of the garrison has chosen the side of curiosity, wondering just how useful Eren's power could prove, possibly ending the dire situation here in Trost. Armin tells Pixis of a plan he's thought up, using Eren to seal the blown gate with a large piece of rubble. Pixis is willing to stake his faith in the young soldiers, addressing the masses, concocting a narrative that Eren is the first successful Titan transformation and will help them achieve victory here today, reminding the soldiers of the fates that await them if they lose the wall here today. Most stand their ground and assist in retaking the wall. Eren sets out to complete his duty, several elite soldiers assigned to guard his flank as he presses forward, with a boulder large enough to seal the wall. There's a minor setback as Eren still struggles to control himself in his Titan form, but he's able to hold it together and complete the mission. After retrieving the boy from the disintegrating Titan form, there's a worry they won't be able to make it back to the other end of the wall without being murdered by the rampant pure Titans. They are, however, saved by the return of the Scout Regiment. Having been notified of the situation here in Trost, they diverted back to the walls as something more interesting has shown itself here. Eren Yeager has caught the eye of Erwin Smith, who sees the endless possibilities in the boy's power. With the help of the battle-hardened scouts, Trost is quickly cleansed of Titans. 2 are captured per squad leader Hanja's request for studying, and taking account of the dead, 207 soldiers are either dead or missing, 897 wounded. The military has taken a severe hit, but those that live to see another day have been hardened, grown stronger from their battles. In light of all the dead, humanity had successfully fought back the threat to the Titans, claimed a victory they've never had before. For the first time in Paradise history, humanity triumphed over Titan. Despite his contributions to the victory in Trost, The government officials that lead cushy lives in the interior fear the power that Eren holds, and the consequences that his existence entails. There are those that see the boy as a hero, particularly those within Wall Rose, who were saved from a cruel fate thanks to his efforts. Those of Wall Sina, though, the interior of the city, are less forward-thinking. Part of this could be due to the fear that Eren's abilities will lead to the exposure of the false monarchy. But regardless, any hasty decision the government makes on Eren's fate could spark a civil war. He's kept beneath the courtroom, where a hearing will decide the fate of this boy. What seems like a casual conversation to us is one that carries great weight and fear for the royal government. The monarchs are aware of their terrible job as rulers, and the military police are their only protection from what many see as the true leaders of humanity. Commander Pixis of the garrison and Commander Erwin of the scouts have like-minded ideas for the future of the land. If the monarchs knew they were meeting, they'd likely declare conspiring against the government and fear being overthrown, but that fate awaits them another time. For now, they have other plans. Erwin knew going into the trial it would be rigged against their favor. Commander Niall Dock of the military police will be actively trying to convince the masses it's best to kill Eren. He uses the fact Eren lost control of his power as a weapon, along with bringing up dirt from his past. The fact he killed 3 traffickers trying to take Mikasa. He continues to spin a narrative that Eren is a killer with no way of telling what's friend or foe, deeming him a threat to public safety. The hot-headed boy opens his mouth, calling those that sit here accusing him of being manic as cowards, unwilling to fight for themselves. Not one monarch here has ever seen a Titan, much less fought one. Sensing the boy is digging himself into a hole, Levi steps in, playing the role as Eren's owner, the one that can control him, that will leash him in the field. Captain Levi has grown not in height, but in maturity from his days struggling to survive in the dangers of the underground city. He had been recruited personally by Commander Erwin for his innate instincts and ability in battle, a hereditary trait to the Ackerman blood. On the field, he had become the scout's ace for eliminating Titan threats, thus making him the perfect jailer for Eren. He proposes they test Eren's ability to cooperate with the scouts on the field in an operation to seal Wall Shinganshina, once more taking back Outer Wall Maria. Due to the fact they will be in Titan territory, there is no worry Eren will harm the public. Dalius Zachary, the leader of the 3 branches of the military, sees this as the best course forward, and something the interior monarchs cannot raise hell about. It's officially decided. Eren Yeager will join the scout regiment and be tested in the field in an operation to reclaim Wall Maria for the sake of humanity. Hanj is normally a calm, though eccentric person. For the moment, only half of that shines through, as she cries over the death of 2 Titan test subjects. In the night, someone had killed them, likely in an effort to halt understanding of the true nature behind them. Hanj had already gathered that Titans have more of a connection to humankind than first imagined. It's quite obvious, given her enough time, she'd be able to draw the right conclusion. Erwin asks Eren at the scene of the crime who he thinks the true enemy is, alluding to the fact that the commander knows there is more at play than a simple race of Titans trying to eat humans. Some people within humanity are trying to keep them in the dark. He's known this since his father's death. He had been taught history as they know it does not explain the state of things and is full of holes. Erwin's father hypothesized that somehow the first king was able to wipe the minds of his subjects. That was the only explanation for why no oral or written history of the time before the walls was passed down. This led to his ambition to see the world outside the walls, to understand what really happened, and clear as it is now, there are those wanting them to stay ignorant. He will find those responsible. At the induction of the 104th Training Corps, cadets are tasked with joining one of the military branches. Erwin tells them of the operation to reclaim Shinganshina, and that there is no guarantee anyone who joins the scouts here today will return with their lives. Regardless if they choose to stay, they will be welcomed to the ranks of pushing humanity to greater heights. Of the cadets, Mikasa, Armin, Reimer, Berthold, Ymir, Krishna, Jean, Sasha, and Connie join the Survey Corps. Annie leaves those that she knows, joining the military police, likely under the assumption the founding Titan is somewhere hidden in the interior, but she couldn't be more off the mark. That power still remains embedded into the hot-headed boy, set to journey outwards and reclaim what was once lost. Their journey, however, takes an unexpected turn. Abnormal Titans exist, ones that don't follow normal behavior patterns of pure Titans. But with the rise of Eren's ability, Titans like the Armored and Colossal are likely as intelligent as humans, and may just be within their ranks. That is Erwin's thought process, though unbeknownst to him, a 3rd special Titan has made its appearance. the female Titan. As it lays terror to their ranks, the scouts maintain formation, approaching what is known as the Titan Forest. The female stumbles upon Armin's position, laying waste to the soldiers. With his hood up, the Titan isn't able to decipher who it may be. She stops Armin in his tracks and lifts the hood, peering into the boy's eyes. Armin is left in a state of shock, and for reasons likely stirring from emotional, the female spares his life. The boy recollects himself and joins with Reiner and Jean, both scattered from formation as the left flank falls apart. They get into a skirmish with the female Titan, Reiner being nabbed while swinging around her towards her nape. For a moment, it seems he's dead, but as the Titan stands idle, something seems off. It looks almost as if she's listening to something Reiner's saying. From where they are, they can't make it out. Reiner then frees himself, and once doing so, the Titan departs, heading straight for Eren's position. The seeds of doubt are sown. Armin starts to hypothesize. There are moles within their ranks. Erwin is no fool. He had long figured Titans were hiding amongst them, and he's not the type of man that needs to know the details to take action. Thus, the plan for this expedition was never to reclaim Wall Maria. That comes at a later date. They first must expose the enemy within, and within these woods lay a trap. Eren's simply the bait. As Levi's squad rides through the hunting grounds, the female is restrained by special equipment, allowing Erwin to capture his prey. He aims to question the one within, Levi moving in to pull her from its nape. But before they can, the Titan lets out an ear-splitting shriek, attracting dozens of pure Titans to its location, who consume the female's flesh. Steam from its body cakes the dense forest. By the time their visibility clears, the operator is gone, but it's quite obvious where she's set off to. Per their captain's orders, Levi's squad was to evac Eren out of the woods while he deals with the female Titan. But now, chasing their backs is a lone hooded soldier. Believing it to be Levi with good news, they let them close in, but Gunther quickly realizes this is not their captain. He's cut down like a Titan, his neck severed. Olo grabs Eren and they make a dash as Petra and Eld take on the enemy. Eren glances behind to see the flash of a transformation. Eld is smashed between the teeth of the Titan after putting up a fair fight. Petra, in shock, is unable to react as her body is spread across a tree, finding its resting place contorted at its base. Olo's back is snapped as a kick sends him flying into the foliage. Eren can do nothing but watch it all. Grief and rage overtake him. He had followed orders to not transform, to let them, the elite, take care of the situation. But where did that get them? Dead. Had he disobeyed, things could have gone differently. They may still be alive. But now wasn't a time for regret. He still had the opportunity to avenge the fallen. Levi knows that sound, as does Mikasa. It's all too clear Eren's engaged the enemy, and knowing the fool, he'll be unable to keep a cool head and fight with his survival in mind. By the time Mikasa gets to the scene, Eren has already lost the fight, taken prisoner by the female, who moves to flee. Lost in rage, she attacks without strategy. Arriving to the fray, Levi orders her to pull back while they think of a proper plan. Through their efforts, they're able to recover Eren, though Levi is left with a broken leg following the scuffle. The Survey Corps retreat to the city of Stois, having failed to achieve anything particularly meaningful. They are hazed for the losses they've accumulated, with nothing to show for it. It's decided Eren is to be handed over to the military police. All seems lost, but the boy with quite the knack for strategy, Armin, has one last trick up his sleeve. Eren is to be transferred into the interior for execution, passing through Stois along the way. Annie had been stationed here on her duties, and given the fact she needs Eren alive, if he does in fact have the founding Titan, Armin takes a gamble that they can lure her out by asking for her help in freeing Eren. The boy had come to deduce Annie was the female Titan from the fact she intentionally spared the lives of only members of the 104th Cadets on her campaign through the formation to find Eren. He had also taken note when their ODM gear was checked after the 2 Titan experiments were killed. She had presented Marcos to not draw suspicion towards her involvement. By process of elimination, she was the only possible suspect. As they attempt to lead her underground to eliminate the possibility of her transforming, Annie stops in her tracks, further convincing Armin of her identity. She realizes the boy knows what she is, laughing as the tension rises. She knows she's fucked, but she's still capable of taking a gamble. As Armin fires out the signal to detain her, Annie cuts her finger while soldiers seize her. The wound triggers the transformation, the female Titan appearing in the heart of Stois. Eren was told not to falter against the girl he once considered a comrade. He uses the deaths of Levi's squad as fuel for his rage, going hand to hand with the Titan. As the Survey Corps slowly closes in on the battle, Annie can sense she's being pinned. In a desperate attempt to escape capture, she climbs upwards, but Eren won't allow the killer to escape. He weighs her down as Mikasa cuts her fingers. The girl falls towards the pavement, her body slamming against the concrete. Moments before they can capture her, Annie crystallizes her human body, depriving the Survey Corps from their one lead on what the hell is actually happening. More questions present themselves, without so much as one answer. Near Mikasa's position, a chunk of the wall was ripped from its place by the fingers of Annie. Peering within, the face of a titan looks back at her. Pastor Nick of the cult-like religion that prays to the walls like miracles of God tries to pressure the scouts into keeping silent of what they saw within the walls. Hanj doesn't take this bullshit from the priest. Under the impression the man knows more than he lets on, they decide to detain him for further questioning, while Erwin deals with the blowback from their operation. The royals are freaking out over how near the Titan threat was, but it's clear to Erwin that something about Eren and Annie's abilities concerns them more than normal, as if they are keys to revealing the government's dirty secrets, the same secrets they killed his father for knowing. The time to expose their misdeeds is nigh, yet more pressing matters prevent themselves currently. Survey member Thomas alerts Erwin that the position in which they were keeping the 104th cadets detained under suspicion more among them are Titan spies, is being assaulted by Titans as they speak. Stripped of their ODM gear as a precautionary measure, they have no hope of fighting back the impending threat. To make matters worse, a new Titan has made itself known. A large, furry beast-like giant. Along with him, the Cart Titan, and a detachment of Marley troops aimed at bringing the warriors sent over 5 years ago back home. A gas containing Titan spinal fluid is spread over a village within the middle of the 3 walls, as the Beast Titan uses his shriek to transform the villagers into pure Titans that follow his orders. Thanks to his descent from royal blood, his mother and ancestor of the Fritz line, part of what is known as the paths that connect the 9 with the founding Titan is accessible to him. With the release of his subjects, the invasion of Paradis has already begun. Wall Rose has been breached. The 104th are in dire straits. The 2 veterans with them have bit the dust, the Beast Titan laying down suppressive fire as his Titans move in. Sensing the impending doom if she does not act, Ymir reveals her true form as the Jaw Titan, having been the one who consumed Marcel when the warriors arrived at Paradis half a decade ago. With her actions, the 104th lived to see another day, buying enough time for the scouts to arrive and extinguish the Titan threat. The Beast Titan flees the scene, knowing when a battle has been deemed unwinnable. As the dust settles, Krista reveals to Ymir her true name as a way of building a bridge of trust between her friend after she put her life on the line exposing her power. But it's hard to say whose true identity is more revealing. Krista's true name is Historia Reyes, the last of the family name of the true royal lineage. This girl is the rightful ruler of Paradise, though the scouts know nothing of the false monarchy yet. As of this moment, they have bigger problems. In desperation to cut their losses and return to his homeland, and sensing an opportunity to escape to the coast, Reiner has taken a gamble and simply asked Eren if he'd accompany him and Berthold to help them save their people. In Reiner's fucked up head, he sees him and Eren as friends, not paying mind to their conflicting positions. Hearing Reiner blatantly admit he's the Titan responsible for his mother's death leaves Eren just as confused in the head. It simply doesn't register his friends are the same people he's sworn to destroy. He tells them to stop joking around. It's clear to the 3 here, they've all lost a little bit of their minds. Realizing the devils here were actually people, Reiner has become a broken shell of himself. Eren, distressed at the idea that humanity itself is his enemy, refuses to acknowledge the possibility his friends are that very thing. The boy walks away from the pair of warriors. As the wind speeds, Reiner heals and Mikasa steps in. Having been warned by Hanj that Reiner and Berthold were likely in cahoots with Annie, Mikasa hasn't let them out of her sight. She tells Eren to flee, but rage gets the best of him, transforming into a Titan, locked in battle with his former comrade. While Eren holds his own below, the scouts have to think up a plan to deal with Berthold. The steam emitting off his body prevents them from getting in close with ODM. They're helpless to take the Titan down, only able to watch as Eren subdues Reiner. Using grappling tactics, he's able to shatter the armor caking his nape, giving Mikasa an opening to cut him out. But it's in this moment Bertholdt makes his move, plummeting from the wall to the ground below. A great cloud of steam coats the ground, and as it dissipates, the Titans are nowhere to be seen. The situation has grown dire. A message is sent to Trost alerting of the capture of Eren, prompting Commander Erwin to gather the scout regiment, along with a division of garrison and military police experiencing their first time in the field. They depart to reconvene with Hange's team as they head for the most likely place of the Titan Transformers, the Forest of Giants. Reiner's mental state continues to crumble, apologizing to Eren for his still recovering form, having to remove him when they fled without much care in mind. He hopes they can still get along as friends, but Eren's rage quickly reminds him that his mind is betraying him. He can no longer decipher friend from foe. He had the mission to come to Paradis, eliminate devils, and retrieve the Founder. Instead, he became a scout with the mission to free humanity from the Titans. Bertholdt's expression grows grim at the continued downward spiral Reiner is on. Eren's emotional outburst continues as he calls them traitors and killers. Ymir, who has also been taken captive due to her Titan abilities, tells Eren to shut the fuck up and stop being so annoying. He sits quietly as she decides what she wants to do. She really only cares about Historia, having a very fond relationship with the girl. Given Reiner and Bertholdt are both from her homeland, she tells them she'll assist only under the condition Historia can come with them. They agree as the signal flares are spotted on the horizon, heralding the arrival of Erwin's finest. A melting pot of the branches, garrison, scout, and MPs ride towards battle. Reiner makes a move to flee with Eren attached to Bertholdt's back. Ymir makes a dive to obtain Historia, and they begin to run for the outer walls. Erwin continues pursuit, rallying the troops despite their fears. Some already lie dead to the dozens of pure Titans wandering the area. The military police face the most difficulties with their inexperience in field work. This is what the true world looks like, outside the interior, on the path to humanity's revival. Lives must be sacrificed for progress. As they close in on the Titans, Historia agrees to run away with Ymir. The 104th Cadets mount the armored Titan's body, trying to reason with their former comrades to forsake their past and side with them. Bertholdt is untrusting of them, still holding the animosity of his homeland, afraid of what may happen to his family back home if he colludes with what they see as devils. Reiner has fallen silent, focused on the path ahead. Mikasa, though, is able to drive Ymir off her path, sensing the danger she'd be putting Historia in if she goes along with the two Marley warriors. She abandons her post, allowing Mikasa free rein to retrieve Eren. Reiner's advancement is stopped by none other than a routing plan Armin and Erwin had thought up, using the sheer force of Titan flesh to slow Reiner to a halt. Erwin launches a final advancement to back the retreat of the 104th once obtaining Eren. As he lays down these orders, a Titan nabs him from his horse. Even in the hellish of scenarios, Erwin remains a level-headed leader, pushing his troops forward as he's propelled backwards. Mikasa works at freeing Eren from the armored fingers, and with the collaborative effort of Armin and Erwin making his triumphant return, one arm down, yet still capable of cutting down the traitor in front of him, they retrieve the boy. Chaos coats the open plains, as ODM gear becomes rather useless due to the lack of trees, and casualties begin to pile high. Mikasa and Eren are stranded as Rein resorts to throwing Titans to stop their escape, their horse lying wounded on the ground. As they relocate themselves, the Titan roams towards them, one all too familiar to forget. The smiling Titan, the one who took the life of Eren's mother, the one that once was Grisha's first wife, the mother of Zeke Jaeger. Dina Fritz walks towards them. A rush of memories floods Eren's mind. He begins to lose his temper yet again when Hans comes to their side, having waited for this moment since the day Shinganshina fell. The day he failed to save Eren's mother, too afraid he would die and listening to the pleas of Carla to save her children. It was the day he would stand proud as a soldier of Paradis. He will kill the monster that took so much from them. Hans attempts to get an angle on the monster's nape. Mikasa too injured to assist, Eren unable to transform with his injuries. They can only watch as the garrison captain, though putting up a great fight, is crushed in defeat. Nothing but rage escapes Eren. Anger, sadness, grief. This demon has taken away so much in his life. As it reaches down towards him, Eren lets out a cry of war and punches its hand. Something strange activates. The founder within Eren, the only of the 9 that can be activated by a member of the Royal Fritz bloodline. Eren had exposed a loophole in the requirements to use the founder, by touching the hand of someone of royal descent. With this, the Titans listen to his will, which in this moment is to destroy every essence of the smiling Titan that is Dina Fritz. The ground shakes as their collective bodies fling themselves onto the Titan, consuming its flesh, ignoring all humans in the vicinity. The soldiers, as does Ryan and Berthold, stare in awe at this revelation. It would seem the founder they were looking for all this time was none other than Eren himself. As Eren locks eyes with Reiner as he rushes Mikasa to safety, the thought of killing Reiner comes to mind. And with this, the Titans follow his will, switching their focus to the new enemy. Overwhelmed, with no hope at escaping, the two traitors accept their ends. As Erwin orders a retreat, knowing their numbers can't handle a fight against Armor and Colossal in the open, Ymir makes a last-minute decision to stay behind, fending off the Titans following Eren's will alongside Reiner. This is a perplexing action to some, but to Ymir, it's only fair payment for what she had done. Thanks to the fact she ate their friend all that time ago, she was able to get a second chance at life, one she doesn't think she fully deserved. She also has an understanding for the warriors, knowing what Marley is like for Eldians interned there. And with the memories she inherited from the boy who was the job before her, she knows they fight in fear of what may happen to their families if they fail. Returning empty-handed is not an option for them, so she'll be their trophy so they can return home. The warriors aren't inherently bad. They're soldiers, brainwashed to believe they've been tasked with eradicating devils. The very fact Reiner's mind has experienced a total collapse is enough proof they understand the severe sins they're committing while here on Paradise. As they arrive to Shinganshina, they're met by the Beast Titan and his entourage of Marley enforcements. They haven't made it home just yet, but home has come to them. The scouts' return faced no issue, all Titans passing them by to pursue Eren's marked targets. With this, their second predicament becomes solved unintentionally. With Wall Rose now considered Titan-free, refugees can be let back out into the middle wall. If it had taken any longer, the risk of civil conflict and starvation would have spelled the end of order. Roll call is taken, and it's assumed over half the scouts' veteran soldiers died in trying to rescue Eren. The boy is forced to come to terms with the fact these deaths are partially his responsibility. Jean pities the severe burden put onto Eren's shoulders, to show the ones that died that their sacrifice to save him was not in vain. He vows to master his abilities and avenge his fellow comrades by exterminating the warriors and their people. Elsewhere, Erwin recovers from his injuries, surprisingly stable given the fact his arm was completely torn from his body. He and the other officers are faced with the revelation that the Titans who caused havoc inside Wall Rose were not from the outside, but they were the residents of the village Rigako, the hometown of Scout 104th Cadet Connie, a Titan found matching his mother's profile, and upon cross-referencing others, it's all but proven. This leads them to the belief that Titans as a whole are from human descent. They are so much closer to the truth than Erwin could ever imagine, though there are those that will do everything to keep that truth buried under a mound of corpses. The royal monarchy has found the scout regiment to be flying too close to the truth of their world. They put a freeze on the survey corps activities and demand they hand over Eren along with Historia. Sensing that the monarchy's goal is to keep them in ignorance, Erwin has Levi take control of the 104th as the new Levi squad while the commander is summoned to the capital, likely to be put to death under treason. Levi's squad becomes fugitives, moving from their original location into Trost to avoid capture and to locate their enemy. The monarchy sends 60% of the royal food supply to Trost in an effort to boost public approval, while they perform operations to silence the scouts. They send in their best man and his team of anti-personnel control officers, the monarchy's loyal elite killers, led by a man from Levi's past.
Yeah, Levi.
Kenny Ackerman, uncle to Levi and dog to the royal military, has come to take the two hostages and kill the remains. The only one capable with keeping up with Kenny's level is Levi himself. He leaves the protection of Historia and Eren to the younger scouts, while he fights the phantom of his past. The cadets thought they were prepared to kill if it meant protecting their own, but the burden weighs greatly on Armin's soul. Had he not shot that man, Jean would be dead. Yet regardless, today Armin took a human life. As he comes to terms with this reality, Levi must think of their next steps. Historia and Eren, despite their best efforts, have been captured. The royal government has taken them to Rod Reyes, the lone surviving royal member of Grisha's attack to seize the founder. His illegitimate daughter Historia, the only one who can inherit the founder back from Eren. The time has come for Erwin to be brought in front of the nobles and sentenced for his crimes. Obviously, these crimes are either completely fabricated or crimes of their own in need of a scapegoat, like in the instance of the merchant union leader, Demo Reeves, who has been murdered at the hand of the monarch's dog. This may seem the worst situation for the commander, but it actually sets him up to remove their enemies from power in one fell swoop. Armed with the knowledge that his story is the true royal queen, and a shift in citizen backing after the lies around the beloved Demo Reeves' murder are exposed, Erwin has the groundwork to persuade the military police, the only standing branch truly loyal to the monarchs, to shift their loyalty. Erwin speaks of what the monarchs would do if a wall fell once more and the scouts weren't there to bail them out. The monarchs refuse to answer, ordering his execution. Garrison Captain Anka interrupts the sentencing, coming in to exclaim Wall Rose has fallen. Garrison Commander Dot Pixis orders the evacuation of citizens into the interior, but the monarchs override his call to action, ordering the gates of Wall Sina be closed and the people left to die, waning the support the MPs feel to the nobles. As military leader Zachary strolls into the throne room, the MPs have chosen to stand with the military, seeing now that these nobles do not care for their people. The coup was successful, the nobles arrested, the civilians accepting the change in power, though somewhat hesitant. Historia is needed to fulfill the shoes of royalty and calm the spirits of the citizens who look to those of royal blood for guidance and comfort, even if they are mostly for show. Despite the success in overthrowing the false monarchy, Erwin seems a little troubled, lamenting about the fact it's come to turning on one another for humanity to press forward. What once was a battle between human and titan now became a battle of ideals, and things only get more complicated as more of the truth is exposed. Within the crystallized caverns that the true royal family have used as sanctuary for centuries, Rod explains to his daughter their role in the greater picture, their duty to inherit the founder and keep it safe. Keep the people above in ignorance. Hearing what his father had done to Historia's half-family leaves Eren in shackles both physically and mentally. The boy who had thought his enemy lay in the bodies of titans only a year ago now is faced with the reality that not all actions that bring progress are inherently good. Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty for the greater picture, or accept that maybe the greater picture isn't worth the means to bring it to fruition. He's faced with a crisis of purpose, giving into the grief over his father's actions. Had Eren not been so full of self-righteousness to begin with, we wouldn't be here to watch him mope. Thankfully, Historia has a strong self-will, denying her father, throwing the Titan serum syringe to the crystal floors and refusing to consume Eren. Even if she had eaten him, she's vaguely aware of the vow-renouncing war, knowing that she would be damned to a state of dormancy against the threat of the Titans. She works to free Eren, while her father desperately licks up the serum leaking on the ground, his last hope of continuing his family's purpose. Had he not been a coward and just taken the serum himself to begin with, he wouldn't be in this situation. But Rod is more of a leech, a person incapable of self-sacrifice. Yet now, he's been pushed to it here. Having traced the location of Rod to the chapel after interrogating some interior officers, Levi's squad is locked in a bloody conflict against the dogs of the monarchy. With most dead or injured, Kenny retreats from the caverns as it begins to collapse, heavily wounded himself. Levi's squad assists Historia in freeing Eren, as her father before them continues to bring down the ceiling. They're forced to turn to Eren for a way forward, coaxing the boy out of his suicidal state. Faced with the death of his friends or a chance for life, he picks up a bottle labeled armor, consuming it while activating his power. His Titan form creates a crystallized cocoon around his allies, shielding them from falling rock. His gamble paid off, though a new issue lies on the horizon. Heading towards the nearest densely populated area, Rod's deformed husk drags its body towards Wall Sina. Due to the size of his torso in proportion to his ligaments, Rod's form cannot stand on its own. The scouts attempt to get close to the Titan, but his body is too hot to attach to and cut the nape. They have to use unconventional methods if they want to stop his assault. Owen and Hanj come up with a plan to load a net full of gunpowder for Eren to deliver into Rod's face hole once he stands upright to try to scale the wall, and as he does so to disable his arms momentarily with carts of gunpowder. At that point, Rod's nape should be one of the chunks in the air. It's up to the remaining scouts to locate and cut the area, eliminating his ability to reform. The plan goes as proposed, Historia the one to deliver the final blow to her father. As she lands in the streets of Orvud district, the people look to her, asking if she is their savior. The girl stands proud, exclaiming her name as Historia Reyes, the true ruler of the walls. Their queen is the one who saved their city. They had a rocky relationship at best, but Levi is still the only family Kenny has left. He tells the boy of their shared blood, passing a syringe of Titan serum he stole from Rod. He leaves Levi with the thought that plagued his mind, that everyone was a slave to something, whether that be drink, devotion, family, or power. Kenny found himself loyal to Udi's cause after the man spared his life. But for why? He isn't too sure himself. Maybe it gave his life some form of purpose. Maybe it was for the power of the status. Whatever it was, doesn't matter now. He doesn't want to die, but there's not much of a choice when it's your end. Kenny dies the bloody murderer he was. With his death, the embers of the false monarchy have all but been stamped out. Historia has been sworn in as the new monarch, uniting the people with her hand and killing the monster that threatened peace. Due to her heavy importance, her days in the field as a scout are over. She now works for the people, taking care of orphans as a reminder of her dear friend Ymir. Eren had a vision of the night he ate his father, remembering that Keith, his cadet commandant, was the one who took him back to the refugee camp. Asking the man more of what he knows, they come to hypothesize that the Jaeger basement holds the secrets to the truth of humanity. They begin preparing for an operation to take back Shinganshina from the Titans and learn the true story of Paradis's creation. 2 months after Historia's coronation, the scouts depart from Trost district to reclaim what was once theirs. There has been absolutely no trace of a Titan threat. The sealing of the wall couldn't have gone more smoothly, and here they are, in the eye of the storm. The dead air leaves a chill down the spine of the scouts, wondering when anything may happen. With a regiment 100 strong, they have numbers, but not so many they can take an ambush from what all too likely awaits them. Somewhere, the warriors lie in wait. Armin quickly realizes they're hiding within the walls, leading the scouts to begin examining the area. Reiner is discovered soon after, their ambush foiled, though not entirely. In the distance, the flash of a transformation reveals the beast in an army of the pure. Hurling a boulder into the back gate leading deeper into the walls, he's cut off their escape. Their horses trapped within. Without them, they would never make it back to Wall Rose. The scouts have been forced to settle matters here. Whether this is best case or worst case scenario remains to be seen. Handicapped from the losses they suffered during the operation to rescue Eren, most scouts are relatively new recruits, motivated to join after seeing the scouts persevere against Rod Reyes. This means they lack any experience in the true hell of battle. Lives are lost in the front lines as they defend the gate. They must sink or swim in this battle. Within Shinganshina, Eren takes on Reiner yet again. Successful in countering any attacks from the warrior, he pins him down for the scouts to use their newly developed tech. In the struggle for humanity's survival, new developments are commonplace. Born from the mind of Hanj, the rocket-propelled anti-Titan missiles, Thunder Spears, destroy Reiner's armor in seconds. The warriors prepared for the possibility the scouts would overpower Reiner on his own. The man lets out a roar, signaling the beast to throw Bertholdt into the fray. With relatively one transformation a day, he must make this one count. He tells Reiner to lay on his back to avoid being killed in the blast, propelling himself into the air and devastating the town he first attacked on his arrival to Paradise. The battle has taken a turn for the worse. The scouts fight on 2 fronts, heavily divided, and here, on the front lines, losing more lives by the second. The recruits were not prepared for this level of fight. Erwin, taking in the situation, realizes their role in the grander scheme. He will not be one of the chosen to see the truth come to fruition, but he will play a vital role in assuring that truth is reached. He tells Levi it is up to him to avenge the lives he's about to damn, as he takes the stage to rile the spirits of the quivering recruits. He states to them now that their lives are practically forfeit, that they can cower here if they please, but that won't change the fact death awaits to take their souls. Every hope they had for the future, every dream they held on to, none of that matters while bleeding out on the battlefield. But death does not make one's life meaningless. Just as those who perished in pursuit of a better future before them, their deaths will be remembered as stepping stones towards victory. They will surely die in the fight against this beast, but they will not die lying down. The scouts do not buckle or yield to the cruelty of this world. These soldiers push forward. These soldiers scream out. The lives of many are lost in one blatant suicidal charge, but its purpose remained hidden from the beast. Levi delivers retribution for the lives Zeke took. He cuts down the giant, ripping the man from the nape. He contemplates what to do next, hesitating at killing him, thinking of who he can give the Titan serum to and have them attain their enemy's power. But this hesitation gives the cart Titan enough time to swoop in and retreat along with Zeke's mangled body. Levi has failed his commander, who lies before him and the wreckage of their forces. The two warriors remain committed to their mission to extinguish the scouts. They struggle against the colossal sheer height and power. Reiner, on the other hand, has been all but defeated. Armin thinks up a dire plan to take the Titan down, having Eren fake his defeat while Armin instigates Berthold to the point he uses all his remaining energy to burn Armin alive. The boy holds on as his skin chars and his body flings against the power of the steam propelling off Berthold's form. Hidden by the rage created from Armin's words and the steam emitting from his body, Berthold fell for their trick. As the dust settles, the Titan form of Eren before him is nothing more than a shell he used to plug the wall. Jaeger moves behind the Colossal, cutting him from the knee. Armin is approaching death, minutes away at best. Zeke appears on the scene, telling Eren they are both victims of Grisha Jaeger, and there will be a time when he'll return for his lost brother. He leaves the scene, apologizing to Berthold. He's a necessary casualty in this war. They move to retrieve Reiner and retreat back to Marley, too damaged to continue their invasion. As Levi enters the scene, ordering Eren to give him his blades and gas to pursue Zeke, Eren hears Armin gasp for breath. He begs Levi to use the Titan's serum on Armin and have him eat Berthold. Levi hands the serum over when another possibility inserts itself into the equation. A surviving recruit from Erwin's last charge, Flock, has come with the body of Erwin, barely clutching on to life. Levi's left with the decision of who to save, things getting more heated as Mikasa comes to the rooftop, seeing Armin's state, and Levi's tilting towards the decision to save Erwin. They pull their blades on their comrade. Levi reminds them what they are doing is insubordination. They do not care. They break out in a fight, Levi pinned against Mikasa's sword. Flock and Levi try to appeal to her reason, that Erwin is the one who will save humanity from the state they're in. But Eren interjects that Armin is just as capable. His strategic feats have piled high since joining the Scouts, responsible for exposing Annie, for saving Trost, for finding Reiner before the ambush. He is the one who will save humanity. Flock rejects this claim, stating a devil is needed to fight the Titans, and Erwin is just that, damning him and the rest of the Scouts to a suicidal charge for the greater sake of humanity. He poses that Armin isn't capable of such sacrificial plays. Hanj pulls Mikasa off the captain, telling her it isn't their place to choose who gets to live or die. There's dozens she wishes were still alive, but they have to look at the lives before them logically. Whose continued life will better serve humanity? She breaks down, giving up her attempts to seize the injection. Eren pulls on Levi's foot, begging at this point, telling Levi of Armin's dreams to see the sea. That unlike him, Armin isn't driven by hatred, but by ambitions. Levi is left alone to make the decision, a heavy choice that carries great stakes. He moves over to Erwin to give him the injection, but the man swats away Levi's touch, causing him to hesitate and think about what he's about to do. The man in front of him had looked oddly satisfied when he knew he was about to lead a suicidal charge, as if a burden was being lifted off his shoulders. He remembers the words of his uncle and thinks to himself that if he revives the commander, he'd be damning his friend to years more of punishment as a devilish leader, forced to make decisions he knows will lead to lives lost, and curses from the dead for his role in their deaths. He doesn't want to disturb this man's peace he found in dying by waking him back to this hell. Levi makes his choice and gives Armin the injection. It's a large responsibility being chosen to live over the commander of the Scouts, but it's something Armin will have to live with. The shadow of the one many think should have been the one to live will follow his every action moving forward. The Scouts discover Grisha's journal, sharing with them the truth that humanity has not perished, and across the sea are people that hate them for the actions of an ancient empire. The book contains accounts of technology that will allow for rapid advancement on the island, new reformation of education teaching the truth to their people. It's decided the book will be made public to citizens. There's a chance it could cause unrest due to the fear of the unknown, but Historia does not want the monarchy to stand in the way of the truth any longer. With his father's journal, Eren is able to make the connection that he was only able to use the founder when in contact with someone of royal descent. Fearing what they may do to Historia if they knew this, Eren keeps this a secret from everyone. He and Armin come to terms with the fact that due to Ymir's curse, they have only a limited time left on this earth. Eren's 13 years are already down to 8. All of these revelations are hard to come to terms with, and to add on top of that, as Eren kisses the hand of Historia after she presents him with the Medal of Service. The memories of the attacked Titan's foresight flood his mind. Waves of information, terrible truths of what has happened and what will happen, what Eren will do to save his friends from death, what Paradis will become. It's unnerving, and the others can see on his face he's experienced something greatly traumatizing, yet he shares it with no one. As spring approaches the island, the majority of the Titans have been eradicated from Paradis using the wall-mounted Titan killers. Refugees are allowed to move back out to the outer walls, and the scouts make an expedition to the place described in Grisha's journal, a wall by the sea. Looking over the great body of water, the scouts are ecstatic, the 104th splashing around in the ocean. Armin and Mikasa's eyes sparkle at the discovery. As they look to their friend, who has longed for this day since a child, they see him still in place, looking out to the endless horizon. Armin dreams of what could await them out beyond. But Eren sees only the demons he saw waiting in the future. He points out over the ocean, posing the question, if they kill all their enemies across the sea, will they then finally be free? Paradis enters a new age full of rapid advancement. Zeke makes his plan clear to liberate the fear of Eldians by using the founding Titan with his brother to sterilize the race and allow them to die out peacefully. While this plan does not account for the time it takes for fear to die out, Zeke has thought of a strategy to avoid invasion that should let them last 100 years to the death of their race. He works with the leader of the Hizuru clan, Kiyomi, to go about helping the people of Paradis. A loyal soldier to Zeke, Yelena, heads an overthrow of the first of 32 Marley Scout ships that will venture to Paradis following the failed warrior campaign. Yelena and several other anti-Marley factionists make their favor to the people of Paradis clear, most having been discriminated against by Marley or forcibly taken over by the Empire. They bring to the island wine bottles laced with Zeke's spinal fluid that will act as a safety net for the man's later plans. With the help of the Marley de factos, Paradis becomes modernized, learning the technology behind semi-auto pistols and bolt-action rifles. They establish railways, create harbors, and even begin the creation of an airship. The Hizuru sends Zeke's contact Kiyomi to form an alliance with the island of Paradis, Mikasa learning that her descent comes from the Asian land. Kiyomi shares with the government the 3 conditions to protect the island from invasion. Conditional 1 is to test the rumbling to show a fraction of the power it's capable of. Conditional 2, with the help of Hizuru, strengthen the army of Paradis until the rumbling threat is no longer needed. 3. The founding Titan and a Titan of royal blood must be passed down the lineage. Zeke would give his to someone like Historia, who then needs to have as many children as possible before their term ends, allowing for enough offspring for the 100-year period before the population dies out. Though weaponry advancement should keep most nations at bay, the rumbling is still a necessary card to ensure their safety. Eren is against this idea, not wanting to rely on the rumbling for survival. He's seen the future of what it'll bring to the world, and he prays they can think of a way to avoid such a situation. It's unclear to him if he even has the power to rewrite what he's seen, change what fate has decided upon. But all he can hope for is that his friends can find a better way. He's seen what will happen in war, but he fears that those beyond the island are incapable of diplomatic talks with the people they label as devils. As time goes by, he grows quieter, more grim, and fearful of what he must do. Yelena informs Eren of Zeke's sterilization plan, a key part he left out of the talks with the Paradise government. Eren plays along and tells Flock, who is eavesdropping on the conversation, to follow along with them. It's the only way to save their people. As we remember with how he saw Erwin as a demon, but one necessary for the survival of their people, he has found that same spirit in Eren, a man who will become a devil for the sake of his people. He decides to follow Eren down the road to hell, thus becoming the first of a faction that would become known as the Jaegerist. The scouts go overseas to experience the world of Marley, both for understanding and information on their enemy. It's a different world out here, survival not the forefront of people's minds. The scouts have a hard time understanding this world. They have their fun as Eren prepares to go down the road of no return. As the scouts return to Paradise, Eren sneaks back into Marley, to the front lines of their war against rivaling nations. Under the guise of a wounded soldier, Eren is able to enter the port town of Liberio. Marley's war on their eastern front comes to a Pyrrhic victory. With the evolution of anti-Titan artillery, these giants are not as decisive pieces on the battlefield as they once were. Marley returns home, successful, but only thanks to the life and limb the warriors sacrificed in their name. Commander Theo Magath of the Marley army concludes that the Titans are being rendered obsolete, and they should consider the end to the warrior program. Zeke counters this by stating they should work to obtain the Founder and gain mastery over the Nine, a decent solution to the problem, while Marley works to develop conventional weaponry for its outdated military. This brings them to the long-standing Paradise Island operation, one the warriors have failed to achieve anything at thus far, suffering the loss of 2 Titans in the process, only able to get back the power of the Jaw. The royal Tibur family offer their support to the operation, fearful of the power of the Founder and as a form of penance for their ancestors. It's ironic, coming from a royal family, that lead cushy lives as the so-called devils, while the rest of their kind either fight for survival on an island or live poor and oppressed in internment camps. The out-of-touch Tiburs plan to give an address to the wealthy and powerful of the entire world in order to gain global support for the Paradise operation. Deep within Liberio, Eren is faced with the cruelty of the outside world's opinion on his people, despite only a number I can count on one hand actually having interacted with them. It's crystal clear with the preparations for the Tibur's speech to unite the world against the so-called devils, that diplomacy has never been an option. He has Falco, a boy considered as a candidate for a warrior, deliver letters for him. Letters sent to Paradise through the anti-Marley faction, claiming that they must choose their stance against the world when he acts 1 month from now, where he'll make his own position clear. It's been 4 years since his time on Paradise, yet the years didn't make the pain and grief he had for his actions any easier to bear. He had killed people he considered friends and left others like Annie and Berthold there to die. He was nothing more than a coward, not a warrior standing for his people. Survival's guilt reaches an all-time high as his finger shakes over the trigger, but as he hears the voice of Falco and his cousin Gabby, he cracks, pulling the barrel out of his mouth, incapable of even killing himself. A few days later, on the night of Tibur's address, Falco comes to Reiner telling him an old friend wants to speak with him, leading him to the basement of a building behind the stage, where a monster from his past awaits to greet him.
Yo, 4年ぶりだな、ライナー。
Eren instructs Reiner to sit, speaking calmly to the one who once laid ruin to his hometown. He tells Reiner he understands now, more than the emotional boy he was all those years ago, that this isn't a story about the good and the bad. These traits exist both here in Marley, as they also do on Paradise. No one side is evil or saintly. Reiner's attack as a child that left his mom dead is understandable when you look at the position he was forced into. A child given too much power and responsibility, forced to attack a land of supposed devils for the safety of his family, only to learn later he'd taken innocent lives. Eren must do the same thing. To save his people, he must lay waste to his enemy, bring ruin to Liberio and its citizens, become the villain of a story, all for the sake of survival. As he hears Tibur above them exclaim Eren the enemy of peace, the Paradise Devils unredeemable monsters, the only path forward is carnage. Eren looks sad that this is what it came to. His hope there was another way crushed. The paths had led him here to commit murder.
Sensei Goku!
Tibur is crushed in the awakening. Eren launches his body at the noble ambassadors in front of him, killing countless of highly ranking officials. The Marley army anticipated an attack, and the military begins firing at the Titan, but to no avail. The Warhammer Titan, the one that's been passed down in secrecy in the Tibur family, reveals itself as the scout regiment lays raid on the city. Mikasa assists Eren in disabling the Warhammer, but before Eren can consume the user, the Jaw Titan makes its appearance. Galliard, the brother of Marcel, attempts to fight Eren, only to become a can opener for the crystal covering. Zeke transforms and begins fighting the scouts, making an effort to still appear as if pro-Marley, waiting for Levi to come cut him from the nape and evac him to the airship from which their assaults began. Marley hails reinforcements, which arrive in the port, only to be completely annihilated by the summoning of the Colossal. Armin decimates the Navy pier, buying them ample time before invasion once returning to Paradise. After consuming the spinal fluid of the Warhammer, Eren attempts to rid Marley of the Jaw Titan as well, but a suicidal Reiner is awoken by the pleas of Gabby and Falco to save Galliard. With brittle armor, a clear indicator of his desire to die in this battle, after saving the life of Marcel's brother, keeping the boy's ambition alive, Reiner moves in to square off against Eren. He's pummeled by the weakened attack Titan. Eren, reaching his limit, is forced to retreat with Mikasa to the airship. Enraged, Gabby takes a similar stance to the young Eren Yeager from Shinganshina, cursing the name of her enemies. She rushes after the airship, firing off a bolt rifle, managing to kill one of the scouts still returning. She uses the man's ODM gear to rise up to the airship, Falco holding onto her, pleading for her to turn around. but she doesn't listen, and has come to take the life of a village girl. Silence echoes across the hall, then chaos. Some try to kill the girl while others flock to Sasha's side as she calls out for the meat she was promised on their return journey. Gabby realizes all too quickly she's not shot a devil that lacks emotions. She's killed a person deeply loved by her friends. Flock states they should toss the kids out to fall to the ground like sandbags, but Jean dissuades the mob. Killing 2 kids won't stop the cycle of hatred that's been perpetuated for over a millennia. They have to be better, even if Eren isn't. Jean blames Eren for Sasha's death, for forcing them to play their hand and come to his aid in Liberio. Eren takes the responsibility on his shoulders, as Falco and Gabby realize that Zeke has betrayed Marley and is working to achieve his own ends. After consuming Berthold, it seems Armin inherited some of the affection the boy had towards the girl. He visits her often, speaking to her about his internal struggles, relating to her actions with the desolation he had just caused in Liberio. Had they at one point been better than the warriors that attacked their walls? Maybe so, yet now they're just one and the same. War makes a devil out of good people. Maybe it's better to say there are no good or bad people, just actions that are so. We're all morally ambiguous. It's what we choose to do that defines our character. Which way does Armin lean? Does it make him more good-natured if he regrets the killings? It doesn't change the minds of the dead or the mourning. They'll still hate him for what he did, even if he had a reason to do so. The war on the horizon doesn't hold a winner or a loser. It's not a battle of good versus evil. It's a conflict of man, of the survival for one's people. And one man will become the devil himself, if it means his loved ones won't die. There are those within Paradis that support the actions of Eren Yeager, and believe him to be the one to move them forward to a future where they don't have to fear invasion from the outside world. Thus, the Yeagerists are founded by Flock, who work to upstir the military government and place Eren in control of Paradis's future. They free him from his holding, as Eren goes to confront his friends, and show them the man he has chosen to become for their future. Arthur, a man once from Marley, having settled into Paradis, a part of one of the scout ships, and having come to love Sasha, is faced with her killer, who curses Sasha as an Eldian devil scum. Arthur lashes out in grief and anger, shocking Gabby and further confusing her on what exactly is wrong with what she says. She's continuously faced with the reality that these so-called devils are as human as her, and even those around her that are Marleyan sympathize with Eldians. Falco has grown to understand there is no right or wrong, just actions that have consequences, and Gabby has failed to grasp that. The boy stands in the way, taking the blunt of a strike from Arthur before he's brought under control. Sasha's family, who had taken Gabby in after she came to the island and fled imprisonment, decide to not take vengeance for their daughter against her killer. It's not what she would have wanted. Gabby's perspective on the world and the ideals she lived by have been shown to be complete lies. She's been spared by the same people she curses, even after killing their daughter, their sister. She's left with nothing but grief for her actions. As the Yeagerists arrive at the restaurant, Eren has come for audience with the ones who thought they knew him. Eren explains Zeke's plan that holds all that drank wine containing his spinal fluid captive. This includes many of the upper brass of the military, who become nothing more than hostages. The Yeagerists have completely taken over command of the island, and are on the verge of uniting Zeke with Eren, as they were requested to do so. Armin and Mikasa are under the impression Eren is being manipulated. That's why he's acting so different than the boy they once knew. But he assures them he's acting of his own free will. This is his path to freedom, the one he spoke of on the day in the ocean. He claims the two before him are slaves to their own callings. Armin to the memories of Berthold, making him pity the Marleyans. Mikasa loyal to a fault to Eren. He doubles down, pushing for them to hate him by speaking of his own hate for the two. Armin lashes out after Eren speaks down to Mikasa, getting beat up by his former friend. He leaves them there, hoping they'll come to hate him, and join the rest of the world and uniting against the devil of Eldia. Under heavy watch, Levi orders the execution of Zeke after hearing the Yeagerist faction has completed a coup against the military. But he's too late. All soldiers in the camp with Levi become transformed after drinking the laced wine the night before, Zeke bellowing as he flees. Levi hunts the man down after slaughtering his comrades in their Titan forms, wondering how many more he must watch die before he can follow them to hell. He mutilates the beast's body, dragging him from the forest to take to a new position before the Jaegerists arrive. But it seems Zeke will risk suicide if it means the success of his mission. Flock and Hanj stumble upon the scene. The Jaegerists feel the need to shoot Levi to ensure he is in fact dead, but Hanj dissuades them. Flock is suspicious, but they're distracted by the steaming body of a Titan splitting open. As they turn towards it, Zeke slips from its insides, regenerated from the explosion that nearly took his life, as well as Levi's. Behind them they hear a splash as Hanj has disappeared with the barely alive Levi. They cut their losses and bring Zeke to Shinganshina, where Eren awaits his retrieval. Peck, the cart Titan, has come directly to Eren, declaring herself a defector. Eren has absolutely no trust in her, but having their original plan to send Gabby as a warning to Marley to stir conflict. Whatever the cart Titan has planned should do just as nicely. She takes them to the rooftop of the building where she states she'll point out their enemy. And going along with the ruse, at the rooftop, she points towards Eren as the Jaw attacks him from underneath. Marley's assault on the island begins, airships heard approaching from the sky above. Reiner looks down upon the city, spotting Eren at its center. His expression turns grim as he prepares to fight the devil himself in the streets below. While holding his own is what Eren does best, he quickly loses ground against the several Titans alongside the Marley infantry units. Fearing the worst, one of the Jaegerists, Onyankopon, goes to the brig to free the scouts held captive. Under the discretion, they'll assist in defending Paradis. They're hesitant to assist Eren, disagreeing with his and Zeke's proposed plan, but they also can't sit by as the people of Paradis die. They assist Eren against the military, as does the timely arrival of Zeke to relieve Eren of some pressure. Meanwhile, Falco's brother Colt becomes aware that his brother swallowed some of Zeke's spinal fluid. Hoping to dissuade Zeke from using his shriek that will turn him and everyone else who's consumed the fluid into Titans, they rush to his location. But as the battle becomes more dire and Zeke reaches near death, it's the only card he has left at his disposal. He sympathizes with Colt, telling him that the way he feels about Falco is similar to his affection for Eren, and if he's to save his brother from this conflict, lives must be sacrificed. Zeke's shriek turns dozens into pure Titans that attack Marley's soldiers. Soldiers that have never experienced the other side of the coin. Soldiers incapable of fighting a threat that towers over them. Eren is given an opening to get to his brother, detaining Reiner and rushing on foot over to him. Gabby takes a shot at him, severing his head from his body, only it doesn't kill the boy. His head lands in his brother's palm, his spine stretching back to his torso, reconnecting his vessel. Eren lives so that he can usher in the end of humanity. Alongside his brother, Eren finds himself at the very source of Titan kind, the paths that connect all of the Nine to their origin, Ymir. Before then, the girl stands as a slave to those with royal blood. When Eren makes it clear to Zeke he never intended to go along with his plan to sterilize Eldians, Zeke makes it known he never needed Eren to in the first place. While Eren may have thought Zeke was the key to the paths, Eren was actually the key for Zeke. He holds all the cards here with the royal blood in his veins, but he won't complete this plan until his brother sees things his way. Time works differently in a place like this. They have all the time in the world for Eren to change his mind. Through exploring the memories of their past, Zeke tries to show Eren that their father was just using him to meet his own ends. But Eren makes it clear his will is his own. His father may have wanted freedom for Eldia, but not at the sake of others. Eren, however, realized at a young age to seize freedom, to liberate his people from the possibility of genocide, he must take away the freedom of others. Someone has to become a greater devil than the ones currently labeled as such. He is that person, visiting the memory of their father amongst the royal family. The night Grisha killed the Reyes lineage, the truth of that night becomes clear. While Grisha knows what he must do, he doesn't have the strength to do it. Killing children isn't something he's capable of. But Eren tells his father to stand up, the man acknowledging his future son. He listens to his orders to push forward through the grief and the burden of sin. This was a story he started, and one he must see to the end. Eren's father murders the Reyes lineage under his orders, collapsing outside the chapel in tears. He calls out to his son's future self, asking if this was the reality he wanted, if Eren is happy with his sins, if this killing will truly save the people of Eldia. Eren had only shown his father the fall of Wall Maria to motivate him. He had not shared the memories of what came after, or if Carla was even safe. He had shown him only enough to motivate him to come here today. Grisha warned Zeke of the terror that his brother will bring, that his son had shown him what lies at the end of all this. He apologizes to Zeke for being a terrible father, and he begs his son to forgive him. As he's embraced by Grisha, Zeke becomes startled. It never was his father pulling the strings. Eren has always been behind the path forward. As the last in line as the attack Titan, Eren has a duty to bring an end to the generations of Titan kind. They come back to in the paths, Zeke quickly ordering Ymir to sterilize the Eldians, but Eren runs after her. Upon touching her, he learns her story and embraces his ancestor, telling her she is no god nor slave. She is but a person, and she has a choice. Her stone face wanes, replaced with trembling eyes, streaming with tears. Eren asks if she was the one who led him here, if she's been waiting for 2,000 years for someone to liberate her of this Titan curse. Zeke's voice of panic fades out as reality sets back in. The walls crumble as Titans march outwards towards the sea, towards Marley, where the Global Alliance is preparing to invade Paradise. Eren, using the Founder's ability to link all subjects of Ymir in the past, delivers the message he will annihilate all beyond the island. Just as they wish to exterminate his people, he will reciprocate the feeling. Eren Yeager becomes a demon of hatred, created by the oppression of the world beyond his island. If only one can survive, then he will always choose his people, not the billions beyond. The scouts are left pondering how they should react. Eren plans to kill humanity for their sake. Is that something they can live with? To get this group together was no easy task. Falco's death was avoided by the fact he consumed Galliard before the man died, making him the new Jawed Titan. Connie had taken him and tried to feed the boy to his mother, still a pure Titan. But thanks to Armin, Connie is saved from a sin he'd come to regret. With the help of Peck, Hanj is able to rescue the remnants of Levi's squad from the Jaegerists, who have assumed total power over the military. Levi, who is present as well, was saved from his injuries by Hanj, though he's barely mobile. Annie, surprisingly, was released from her crystallization at the same time as the wall's crystallization fell. It appears Eren intentionally chose to remove it all, almost as if by his will, this group was united here today, a unit capable of retaliating against him. But the alliance to stop the end of the world is fragile. It's built on a desire to prevent Eren's actions, and the collection of people gathered here have killed those close to one another. The countless lives Reiner has damned, the scouts Annie massacred, the people of Liberio evaporated by Armin, the dead at the hand of Mikasa's blade. This war between sides was all set into motion through the lack of diplomacy. Had they talked things out, had they not shunned the Eldians as devils and removed any chance of understanding, maybe then Eren would not have to go to such extremes for the people of Paradise. The people of Marley had let the man down, as did his friends. There were no solutions he saw besides becoming the villain of his own story. The campfire comes to a bitter end, as Reiner continues to emphasize the dread and grief he has for his actions, for letting Marco die, agitating Jean, who doesn't want to hear the man's sorrow. He beats his friend's killer, only to be stopped by Gabby. Jean walks off, frustrated with his feelings of pity for Reiner. He agrees to assist in the Marley-Eldia alliance, regardless of his emotions. Their one shot to get to Eren, and either reason with or kill him, rides on obtaining the flying boat in this port. The Jaegerists are aware of this, and have mounted heavy fortification in the position, aware Marley and Levi's squad will be on their way. Reiner and Annie are dispatched to the front line to transform and fend off the Jaegerists, while Connie and Armin attempt to seize the boat from the dock before it's destroyed. Connie is forced to kill 2 of their comrades from the 104th Cadet Corps to save Armin's life. They had tried to reason with each other, but it was very clear their beliefs conflicted, and one side would not walk off this dock. It'll be a sin Connie will carry the rest of his life. Mikasa escorts the Hizuru group to the basement for safety while the Titans deal with the threat above. The mechanics tell them it takes roughly a day to prepare the flying boat for launch, but if they can make it to a hangar, they can complete it in about half that time. With the nearest one in Odia of Marley, to ensure they save the most amount of lives, they'll have to sacrifice Liberio to the rumbling. Theo makes this call, telling them to load the boat onto the cruiser. As mechanics work to load the ship, the tides turn as Falco transforms and holds the Jaegerist at bay. Flock has ordered all units to reinforce their position, trains of soldiers traveling towards the bay. but the Jaegerist army never makes it to their destination. Keith Sadie's blows the trains. As Levi's squad and the warriors board the ship, Theo stays behind alongside Keith. With remnants of the Jaegerists still remaining, they must stay to destroy a Marley cruiser they could use to catch the boat. The pair give their lives to detonate the ship, ending the chase to stop the last hope for humanity. The Global Alliance stands hundreds of ships strong, yet they are unaware their conventional weaponry is not a match for an army of Titans this size. With ease, the walled Titans march through the fleet's blockade. Their feet finally touch land as Liberio's citizens rush from their homes. Heat radiates off the giants, those not crushed by their legs, surely perishing in the hellfire they left behind. Eren laments how there's always been walls before him, that he's never truly been free, even now, a slave to his fate as destroyer of civilizations. He had once thought those beyond the walls would be the most free of any. But looking below, all he sees are mangled corpses and desolate ruins, captured in the flames of an inferno. Eren's march continues forward, towards Fort Salta, where Marley airships lie. They work tirelessly to try and get them airborne before the Founder comes to annihilate all signs of life in their vicinity. Trains of citizens arrive having escaped the port town. It's uncertain if a hope of survival lies here, or if they had only extended their lives for a few hours more. The walled Titans draw closer with each passing second. Having reached Odia, the mechanics work as quickly as possible to ready the last hope of humanity. Armin and Annie try to come to some understanding of their feelings for one another. It's a blessing and a curse. Annie finds it confusing how she can be thinking of love in such a dark time while millions die. She dismisses these emotions and just chalks up Armin's actions towards her as good-natured, like he's always been. Armin stops this line of thinking though, hating to be called good when he's killed so many. The two are drawn to each other due to a mutual understanding of their pain and trauma, of the lives they took for the sake of some greater purpose they thought they were serving. But looking at the state of things as they are now, how did the lives of those they kill make anything better? Was that simple lip service to protect their mental state? It seems both of them found comfort in knowing that at least one other could feel their pain. In the morning sun of the promised day, the day they'll stop their friend from destroying humanity outside the island, the coalition readies themselves. But as they talk of the battle to come, Flock appears once more, having stowed away on the ship. He shoots the flying boat and its crew before Mikasa can end his life with a hook through the neck. The fuel tank had been punctured. It'll take roughly an hour or so to fix, but the ground has already begun to rumble. Hange knows she's the one who must stay behind, naming Armin the new commander of the scouts in her stead as she rushes off to topple the first Titans and buy them time for liftoff. As the patch is finished, the team takes off to stop their comrade, as another falls to an honorable death. Levi says goodbye to yet another dear friend. Eren calls his friends to the paths, not for discussion, but rather to make clear there will be no such thing. If they mean to stop him, they must kill him. He won't leave Paradise's fate to chance. He's refused to take their powers away from them, though he could, because he refuses to deprive them of their own freedoms to stop his will. Through a sick twist of fate, he was forced to become a monster of hate, and the Marleys, in the wake of their destruction, finally recognized that. Commander Moeller of Fort Salta turns the remnants of Liberio towards the scene in front of them, the pained face of a beast marching towards them, with an army of Titans to stomp out his enemies. He does not blame the boy for what he's become. Instead, he blames themselves, the adults that have nurtured hate for generations, in the belief it would bring some kind of salvation. Whether Eldian hate was propelled by the actions of their ancestors, or by it being commonplace, they've labeled an entire group of people as spawn of the devil over a small minority of bad actors within the race. Marley became what the Eldians were generations ago, and now they pay for their bad karma as the Eldians did before them. The cycle of hatred, bred from misunderstandings, ignorance, and the rejection of diplomacy, spell the end of the human race. We too must correct our prejudice before it becomes a walking demon of destruction. Moeller's bombing run fails to stop the march of Titans. Their last hope is a flying boat full of the same devils they've persecuted, who wish to save the world. Those who carry one of the 9 mount Eren's spine, rushing for the head. Their fellow ancestors sprout from Eren's back to stop their advancement. Total war breaks out amongst the bones. As Armin is captured by Eren's Titans, Levi splinters the group into 2 teams, one to rescue Armin, the other to advance towards the nape. Falco, Gabby, and Annie reinforce the squad, giving them additional movement thanks to Falco's ability to fly. As they continue their assault, Armin learns the truth behind the Titans. Zeke had come to understand a lot in the paths, a land devoid of time and death. Despite all the time he had to think, he still had no clue what Eren understood about Ymir that caused her to side with him. He does, however, learn the girl had created this place as a means of escaping death. However, this didn't bring light to the bigger picture. What Eren understood was something Zeke lacked in life, and that's emotional attachment. Eren knew Ymir was chained to her love for the king. Why in all her power she chose to still obey him is explained by a feeling that makes us do the unexplainable. Zeke believes it's futile to try and fight Eren now, imprisoned here within the paths. He feels his life was purposeless, devoid of anything meaningful. But Armin arrives to a different conclusion. Picking a leaf from the ground, a symbol of the sheer randomness of life's events, the fleeting, unimportant moments that we latch onto and think for a moment that the reason we were born was to experience this exact moment here and now. For Zeke, the leaf takes the form of a baseball he and Tom used to throw. The happiest, most minute memories of this man's day that hold the purpose which he was searching for. Zeke slips out of the nihilistic thinking that they were just born to simply reproduce, to be slaves to some higher purpose. He's lived his entire life not with emotions in mind. The lives he took were stepping stones to a greater plan he was chained to. He did not look at the world around him. Instead, he looked forward, towards the sterilization of his people. Yet Armin has reminded him that the little things are what makes life worth living, not servitude to a grand order. He gives himself up to death, calling out to Levi from Eren's spine. The man dies, thinking how nice the day looks, wishing he had felt this way sooner. With Zeke's death, the Wall Titans no longer listen to Eren. Regardless, the Founder continues his approach to the fort. Zeke's death gives Jean an opening to blow the nape of Eren's Titan, and Armin drops below to transform and annihilate the head. The plan at first appears to work. That is before Eren transforms into a bipedal version of the Founder, continuing his march to the source of all living matter that has been separated from him in the explosion. From the source of the blast, a fog emits coating the land, spinal fluid that transforms all Eldians into pure Titans, listening to Eren's commands to fight the inheritors of the Nine. Half of the Nine fight to keep the source from uniting with Eren, while the others prevent Eren's march forward. Levi and Mikasa, the only soldiers lacking Eldian blood, are the ones left to deliver the final blow. In her restless dreams, Mikasa sees that life. The one she wished for instead of this. A life where she and Eren lived out his last 4 years together, in a quiet cabin, away from all distractions. A request she asked Eren the time they had visited Marley, learning about the land before Eren ran away to do what he saw as necessary. This was the life she wanted, but a life that never could happen. She embraces Eren, and the boy pleads with her to forget all about him. He comes to reality, to do what must be done. Some time ago, before the boat arrived at the hangar to fix the flying machine, Eren had talked with each of his friends individually through the past. He erased these memories of the talks for the time, having them come back once he died. With Armin, Eren spoke of everything. He admitted he pushed him and Mikasa away to force them to unite against his actions, make the Island Devils the heroes that triumphed over Eren's cruel genocide. He tells Armin that Ymir had found Mikasa to be the one that would free her of her slavery to love. She showed the girl that she still had a choice in how she led her life. Mikasa showed her you can defy the one you love, and still at the end of it, love them all the same. Ymir needed to be shown a different outcome than her own to break the curse. Eren was just a piece in making that happen, the one that experienced great torment in achieving it. Given the powers he awakened to, the control of all Titans combined with the attack's ability to see the past, present, and future simultaneously, Eren had to let the past play out as it did. He had to willingly send Dina Fritz Titan to kill his mother, let Marco die in Trost, Levi's squad perish in the woods, Hans fall to the Titan's hand. The list goes on, but Armin stops his friend from reliving the trauma anymore. As they look over the sea, Eren continues his attempts to act aloof over his feelings for Mikasa. Armin becomes angered and attacks Eren, causing the boy to finally speak from the heart. Sure, he wants Mikasa to only think about him after he dies. He wants her to continue to love him and only him, but she knows she'd never be happy then, and he makes Armin promise to not tell her how he feels. There's a reason he kept these feelings bottled up. He knows they can never be together. He knows there wasn't a future for him to live life with her or his friends. Eren doesn't want to die, but he's sure they didn't want to die either. The sea turns bloody, chunks of hair and flesh caked into the water, a representation of the lives Eren took. Left to rumble across the world, 80% of life would be annihilated. It's Armin and the rest's job to stop him. He had tried to find other ways, but the future had always remained the same. He thought this was the only path to protect the ones he cared for, but people like Sasha and Hanj died anyway. His actions put them in constant conflict and danger against Flock. He knows this reality isn't what he wanted, but it's all he could think to do. He's a great fool who was given too much power and too much responsibility. There was a time when Eren wanted to erase everyone like he set out to do today, exterminate all those that had oppressed them. But in light of all the corpses of innocent people who merely lacked knowledge and understanding, this reality is too cruel and hateful. Armin understands wholeheartedly and tells Eren he's sorry for being the one that put the idea of a free world into the boy's head, setting him up for a harsh awakening. With that in mind, they're collaborators in this mess and will always be together in hell. Eren's touched, and the conversation ends. In the ruins of the valley, Armin comes to. Titans no longer roam this place. That power, thanks to Mikasa's actions, has been erased from their world. Carrying Eren's head, she tells Armin she's going away to bury him in the place he used to nap, knowing he won't be welcomed here. As she leaves, Armin settles the bickering between Marley and Eldians, claiming Titan kind has been removed from Earth as he was the one who killed Eren Yeager. Families and friends reunite, the living catching glimpses of the dead, as the long road to recovery begins. The world is still reeling from the effects of Eren's legacy, and fear of the people beyond the ocean once again coming to exterminate their lives. The Jaegerists have established a military state on the island of Paradis. They live by the motto, "If we fight, we live," chanting the war cry with fear and pride. They will not let Eren's message to them, to fight for their freedom, be smothered. Historia looks over the sea, waiting for the arrival of her friends. She reminisces about the future Eren had told her about, and how it's come to fruition. She believes that it wasn't his choice alone that led to this reality, rather the collective choices of everyone. They all carry the burden for inciting the rumbling. Armin, Jean, Reiner, Annie, Connie, and Peck arrive at the port of Paradis as ambassadors for the Allied forces, hoping to negotiate peace with the Jaegerist. It's uncertain how they will be received. Mikasa sits beside Eren's grave in Shinganshina. She wishes she could see the boy again, clutching the scarf he once gave her. As time passes on and seasons change, Mikasa visits his grave until the day comes and she's buried there beside him. Slowly, civilization progresses. New technologies bring new possibilities. But, as is the curse of humanity, conflict eventually arises. War is waged yet again on these lands with new, more violent weaponry. Nuclear fallout lays waste to the lands, and as centuries go by, humanity's concrete jungles return to nature. Through it all, Eren's tree remains standing, and eventually a boy and his dog discovered the ancient tree with a hole at its stump. It may be time this source of living matter gives another power to reach for their desires. As the cycle of hatred continues to perpetuate violence, and will as long as humanity exists, this source may always bless the weak with the power to fight their enemies. There may never be an end to violence. It'll always loom in the shadow of our kind, but we can choose to chase peace. Chase understanding of our fellow man. We can speak with one another and find solutions that don't end in mindless killings. It could be futile, sure, but there's no harm in trying. Maybe living harmoniously is a pipe dream. Too many different ways of life leading to too many causes of conflict. But there's an innate desire to hope for a better tomorrow. To hope we can find common ground and work together or separate without resorting to killing. But maybe that's just the hopes of a rambling man. Time will tell what we as people choose to do.